Hey there and welcome to Tour Confidential. I'm Ryan Esselta and excited to be joined this week by Golf.com's Alan Bastable and Dylan DeChair. And guys, Satoshi Kodera wins the RBC Heritage in a playoff over Siwoo Kim in a Harbour Town event, guys, that the weather led to different tee times, strong winds, and higher scores than we usually see in an event like this. And let's talk about that, Alan. Harbour Town, a tight course, a Pete Dye design, a little more difficult. The Bombers don't get away with hitting the driver a whole lot there at Harbour Town. The distance debate been in the forefront of the golf discussion for months now. When it comes to course setup, course design, do you think that's overlooked as a way to possibly contain the distance boom a bit?
Yeah, I don't know that it's overlooked. I mean, we talk about it a few times every year. Harbour Town's definitely a week where it always comes up. You know, it's a course where shorter hitters, you look at guys like Snedeker, Graham McDowell, Jim Furyk won there twice. They've had a lot of success there for obvious reasons. It's a placement course. It definitely takes driver out of your hand for the most part. You're not going to see a lot of bombers tearing that place apart. So, you know, I think it's important to have stops like this on the schedule. You don't want to do this every week, certainly. You wouldn't want to go to Torrey Pines and narrow it down and take driver out of a guy's hand. But, you know, there's certain courses that obviously they set up well for shorter hitters, and driving distance was like under 280, which is unthinkable. But keep in mind, it's still a 7,000-yard course. It's not like they're playing it at 6,600. So for mere mortals, that's still there's still some meat on the bone there.
It seems like, Dylan, the tightening of the course is what really seems to contain the distance. As Alan said, it's still 7,000 yards, but these are tree-lined holes, dog legs. Are you okay with stops like this, or places we've seen scores like this? The Valspar, Sawgrass kind of protects the score a little bit. Something like Colonial is also another tight tree-lined course. You okay with, you know, once in a while these type of events?
Yeah, I think it's good to mix it up. Like you said, I do think it gets a little overlooked the way, you know, we look at numbers, driving distance up year over year, but there's a course like, look at Erin Hills, last year's U.S. Open. It was talked a lot about how it was, you know, the longest course ever. Also, the scores were so low. You can set up a golf course for these guys to just hit driver as far as they can everywhere, and that's what happened there. You know, elevated tee boxes, firm fairways that are running away big time. So I think it's good to have some of these stops that kind of throw something else in the mix, not necessarily for a major championship or even necessarily a marquee event, but it's good to see guys rewarded for different styles of play, and this is a perfect week to do that.
Alan, can the governing bodies learn from events like this? I guess this is a course design that helps keep the scores this way, but when the major championships talk about protecting par so much, can they tighten things a little bit where things don't get out of control like we saw at Erin Hills last year with the widening of the fairways the day before the U.S. Open, and all of a sudden it became a bomber's paradise out there?
Yeah, I mean, Erin Hills was a tough spot for the USGA. I mean, the wind didn't blow. It was such a scoreable week. For that type of golf course, you need some wind, and they just didn't get it. It was a firm, fiery course and pretty still, so that's why you saw scoring so low. You know, we'll see it in a couple of months at Shinnecock. You know, I haven't been out there since they've sort of reworked the course a little bit, but they've tightened up the fairways. I think you're going to see a little bit more of an emphasis on driving accuracy than you saw even at the 2004 U.S. Open. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to sort of limit what guys can do with driver, and I think we'll see it in a couple months here.
Yeah, you mentioned the wind. Some things are out of everyone's control, right? The wind, and Tiger Woods said that Shinnecock, it's going to come down to the wind. If it blows, the scores could be over par, the winning score over par. If not, he expects a lot of scores to be under par at Shinnecock. All right, Jay Monahan, the PGA Tour commissioner, made some headlines over the last few days saying he supports legalized sports gambling. Now, Dylan, this has come to the forefront. This issue is expected to be voted on over the next couple days. When it comes to golf and sports gambling, Monahan says he's in support of regulated sports gaming and that it could actually benefit the PGA Tour. Is gambling on golf good for the game?
I think if you asked Jay Monahan if he wished that people, you know, would bet at all on golf or not, I'm sure he would rather that nobody's betting on the PGA Tour at all. But if people are going to be doing it in an unregulated way, and if there's going to be this untapped market that the PGA Tour can't get a cut of, I think he's probably excited about that possibility. So is it good for the game? Not necessarily that there's going to be more betting on the game itself. I do like the idea in, you know, little bits and pieces. I think guys have a lot of fun, you know, going over to the British Open, putting a few pounds down on some of their favorite players for the week and then tracking them. So it's a great way to have fun watching the event. But I do think there's some things to worry about also that come along with it.
What do you think, Alan? Any worry? I mean, there has been unsanctioned gambling going on in golf for quite a long time. But Monahan, there is a financial aspect of this that could benefit the tour. And when it comes to the integrity of the game, it seems like the purses are so big and the limits on golf gambling are there that you don't worry about a player, throwing a round of golf to, cover a spread, so to speak. It seems like the measures are in place to control something like that.
Yeah, I would disagree with what Dylan said. I think the PGA Tour is opening its arms wide and welcoming this decision, assuming it's going to happen. I'm not a legal scholar, but everything we've read and heard sounds like the Supreme Court will lift the prohibition. This is nothing but a good thing, I think, for the tour. It's you look what fantasy football has done for the NFL. Something like 75 million people play fantasy football every year, which is insane. You're not going to see those numbers for golf, but the more action you allow fans to get involved with, to bet on, I think that opens up the game to a whole new fan base, and that's what Monahan's thinking about. This is going to attract a whole lot of new eyeballs. Whether or not it's for the right reasons, to be determined, but this is nothing but a good thing for golf.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan, that aspect of attracting the casual sports fan, Sunday RBC Heritage, you're going to have a lot of different eyeballs watching Siwoo Kim and Satoshi Kodara down the stretch if there's some action on it. I mean, you're a younger guy. You have friends who may not be huge golf guys but are sports fans. Do you see them getting more interested in golf if this was legalized?
Definitely. I mean, look, it's a way to get interested in the tournament no matter who's in contention coming down the stretch. You get some action on the back nine on Sunday. One of the things that makes golf so exciting is just the photo finishes no matter who's involved. So I think what more could be problematic is, someone in the gallery. We've had this issue already. Players are getting more sensitive to people yelling stuff during their backswing. What if someone's a little liquored up on the Sunday afternoon, long weekend, and they have $50 on Ricky Fowler to close out the Masters? Maybe they're more likely to yell something when Patrick Reed is hitting his approach into 18. So I think there's just funny things like that we haven't really seen yet, but as it becomes more out in the open, could be a possibility.
Such an interesting storyline. Money a big factor, of course. The tour says they'd like probably 1% of the pie, so to speak, here. In a billion-dollar industry, that could be a big boom for the tour. And the sponsorship possibilities involved for the tour as well. A lot of money on the line for both sides here. Guys, thanks so much for being with us this week, and thanks for joining us on this edition of Tour Confidential. Be sure to catch us next week right here on Golf.com.